Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're all ready to learn and have a good time at the same time? I'll tell you, this is one of the most powerful speakers that presents at the National Pavement Expo. They're a family-run business that has won many entrepreneurship awards, including Chicagoland Family Business of the Year. And you will be learning, despite yourself this morning, if this is a Saturday morning for you and it's early. Anybody that is in the room today is welcome to a link to the video. We would ask that you don't send it further, but we're doing this morning for the World Sweeping Association. I'm proud to be the director of the World Sweeping Association and the editor of worldsweeper.com. And we provide this, the seminars we sponsor to our members, and then, as I say, it will be unlisted, and then you're welcome to a copy. And if you want such a thing, stop by to me after this, and you're welcome to share it with your team. So with no more fanfare, although we could really use a couple drummers here doing a drum roll for this man, I give you Gary Rabine of Rabine Family Group and the Ditchdigger CEO podcast, which I have not had an opportunity to see.
Oh, come on.
Believe me, I will be seeing it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here today, guys. I know it's Saturday. About 80% of the people at the conference have left already. But I appreciate the group we got here. It's a nice sized group for Saturday morning. And I can talk paving all day long. I'm very passionate about paving. It's something I grew up in my teens doing for somebody else. Started my business early on. Love pavement, concrete pavement, asphalt pavement, and we can continually try to lead in our industry. So we've got great people that constantly try to innovate and be the best we can be in asphalt paving, concrete paving, regionally, nationally, and everything else. And see a lot of faces in here that I recognize over the years. And this show has done a lot to help me become who I am today, and I think many of us. I look at my friend CB here, and another guy. I think you speak at this every once in a while as well, right? And you know, I've been seeing you here for how long? 20 years now? 20 years. And you know, definitely means a lot. But when you come here, it's all about what can make you better for the next year. I mean, you come here. If you're coming here just to see some fancy, some shiny equipment, that's okay. But you can go anywhere and do that. If you come here to take home something that makes you better than you ever were before, that's impactful, right? So that's what I always tried to do. I was here. I was trying to differentiate every year and everything we do. And you'll hear about differentiation, a lot of things that I look at. But the most important thing I'm here to talk about is I started doing a podcast about a year and a few months ago. And the whole concept of the podcast is, as I get older, what can I do to make the world a better place? What can I do to give back the most value I can give to people beyond my life? And so I look at for me, mentorship has been totally the reason for my success. Without mentorship of really good people around me, I'd still be the hillbilly 5-person paving crew, right? And it's not so bad. I mean, we had a lot of fun being that small crew. But as I get older, I'd probably be a little tough on my body. So when I think about mentorship, it means a lot of things to me. And so I've interviewed so far about 32 different extremely strong leaders in the country in industries that they're in. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear some people that are now billionaires today, many strong millionaires today, and they've all done some similar things. All different in their industry, but very often some of the same concepts apply. So it's going to be kind of fun. Let's start with my jingle, Janelle. A jingle. Oh wait, let me introduce. This is my daughter Janelle Rabine, and Janelle has been in our business for how long now? Janelle, 8 years, 9 years, what? We're hung around the business as a young kid because she could say 20. She's 30 now, but you're not supposed to tell a woman's age, but she's 30, and probably been working around our business for about 20 years, in and out, playing around and part-time stuff and all that. So Janelle now is a leader of Rabine America. She just recently became the president of that company. As our leader of that company went off as an entrepreneur to run another one of our businesses that we started, and Janelle's now taken on Rabine America. So give her a hand for that. That's pretty good. And I want to to see a big hand in 10 years when she takes it to a whole nother level. That's the goal. So the jingle starts out for my podcast, and it kind of goes like this. Everybody heard the song before? Not this one, though. Well, maybe if you listen to the podcast.
Paying for a living and doing the best I can.
This is them singing.
Discovered entrepreneurship.
It's not the best thing in the world, right? But it's singing.
Then I became the CEO man. We're blessed to build a business in America, where soldiers fight for our freedom every day. Dad's work ethic was taught from the seat of a gravel truck, rolling down Highway 31. Lord, I was, then I became the CEO man.
That's enough of that. Okay. But basically, the song is trying to basically explain a little bit about where the concept comes from, right? I mean, we all start somewhere, and all the people that I interview in my podcast, same way. They all started with very little. All these people started with pretty much nothing, right? To become millionaires and billionaires. And so when I interview these people, and I learn something every time I interview them, because they're all top 1% of their space. I mean, I could say a couple of them aren't. But the couple that aren't will be top 1% if they're not there already by the things they're doing to differentiate in their industries. So when I think of all the things they came up with through all these conversations, the three things that stuck out the most, right, are these I call the 3 Shiniest Nuggets. And they're simple things, right? It doesn't seem like it's that difficult to think that these are impactful. Of course they will be, right? But more impactful if you think them in a way to be the best in the world at whatever it is. So serving. So how do you serve to be the best in your market? Ritz-Carlton likes service, right? We were talking about that last night, but how do you serve to be the best in the world? Who is the best in the world at serving? Forget about our industry. Who's the best in the world at serving their industry, right? And you can look at any industry and say, who's number one? And I bet they do some crazy things to serve their customers better than anybody else, right? You look at innovate. We'll be talking about these things. Innovate to lead the markets, right? Think about innovation. And our industry is one that's constantly innovating. And most people think, it's just paving. It's seal coating. It's sweeping. It's no big deal, right? But guess what? If you take our dirty industries and innovate better than anybody else, you're going to have a great business, because many people think of these businesses, even running them, as they're not that innovative. I just put asphalt down. I put seal coat down. I pave concrete. But you know what? If you can be, again, the best in the world and innovate at the highest level, you're going to do pretty well, right? And then lastly, mentorship. As we build our businesses, if we don't mentor those people around us to be the best they can be, and we don't look to be mentored by the best people we can find in the world, right? We may just be average. So, I mean, anybody in this room want to be average, you're probably not going to be here, right? I mean, we want to be the best we can be. What if? Let's start with this. What if, you only had to be, world class in these 3 things. If you only had to be world class in these three things, I guarantee you're going to be a success beyond what you can imagine, right? So this is why we talk about these. And every conversation we've had, it's come up. But go ahead with what we got. So we look at our business, and I look at, okay, what happened over the last 39 years in our industry, in our business, right? And how do we progress, and what helped us progress? Well, the first 13 years, right? We were a small business from nothing to a couple $1 million, and I didn't think this way that I'm thinking today, right? So when I look at people in this room, they're much younger than me. I'm like, if you think this way now, you're going to be way ahead of where you can imagine if you can apply these principles, right? I was basically building a job. How many people in this room kind of just went into business because they needed a paycheck? How many people? So a few of us, right? And that's very common, that we go into business because we want a job, we want to build a job, right? And then eventually you say, man, this is all great, but how do I build a business that's got value beyond me? So this whole period of time, this 13 years, really I was just trying to figure out how to do business. I didn't have a college education and barely made it through high school, right? So for me, it was how do I build a job where I can feed my family, my kids could maybe go to college someday, right? I could build a nice house someday. That was kind of my mentality. And that's why I grew kind of slowly and kind of methodically slowly, but I wasn't setting the world on fire, right? In 1994 to 2007, right? I mean, we went from 2 million to 20 million. All right, we started to figure it out. I started to figure out that differentiation was a big deal, and I started to look in my industry, and how can I be the best I could be in my industry? So in this period of time, right, 2 million to 20 million over that next 13-year period, you know, we grew in the area we worked in from 30-mile radius to 200-mile radius. When I look at the nuggets, these nuggets for success that we talk about today, I was probably 50% of the way there. I really believe that we had to serve our customers at a high level. I believe that we had to innovate, right? So I look at these things, I say, you know, 50%, well, that's okay, and that got me there, that's not bad, but man, what can we be if we get to 100%? And I believe today, after all this time, you know, we went from 2007 to the present, from 20 million to 125 million, and actually at one point we were over 200 million sales with other businesses. We learned a lot of lessons of why not to get into some businesses, and we paid the price. We were in businesses that we couldn't differentiate. We couldn't serve any better than anybody else. There was no real differentiating, no really differentiating principles in how you serve somebody delivering fuel oil to their tanks. I mean, we tried, but there was just not a lot. Union roofing business we were in, right? It was you're beating your head against the wall, competing against other union companies in a small market of union roofing. And it was tough to differentiate. So we grew to 225 million in sales at one point, and then we got our butts kicked because these two businesses that we couldn't differentiate, we couldn't serve any better, we couldn't really figure out how to innovate in. We lost a ton of money. So we got out of those businesses. This is not that long ago. Got out of those businesses, went all the way back down to 60, 70, 80 million in revenues, and then we built back again, right? And that was only like 5 years ago. So you learn a lot of lessons in this time, but those businesses we got into that cost a ton of money, I mean millions and millions of dollars, we didn't do very well when it came to differentiation, serving better, we didn't do very well. And in innovation, there's nothing we could figure out, and there's people probably that did and could, but we just didn't. And bottom line is we probably just weren't that passionate about those businesses, right? Just didn't. I wasn't really, the leaders that I thought were leading them weren't as passionate as I believe they were when I hired them, right? So, you know, again, big difference. So growing nationally, and we really believed over this period of time that we seeked out world-class differentiation in the businesses that we grew. So when I say world-class, how tough is it today to look across the globe with the internet today and everything else to say, who's doing what I do better than anybody else in the world? It's a lot easier than it was when I started in 1981, right? Way easier today than it was then. How easy is it to come here and find out who's the best here, who's doing what you do every day, who's doing the best here, networking and interacting with everybody you can here to find out who's the best. Whether it's sweeping, it's patching, it's national paving, whatever it is, right? You've got people in this room and people in this conference that you can learn a ton from. But then how to go beyond this industry and say, gosh, who's doing what? Who's doing the things to change their industry, right, better than anybody else? And I believe today you can go to so many different people that are uber successful that will return your call. I don't care what business they're in. They could be in the food and beverage industry. They could be in the hotel industry. And if you find those, they're the best in the world. They're going to share their experiences with you. And that's what we did with this deal. So again, today I think we're closer than ever, building a culture-focused organization also. So we'll talk a little bit about culture here and there. But how many people here have a solid set of core values that you lead by in your businesses? So about half the people here do, right? Well, again, we weren't that good at that. I mean, in the early years, we didn't have any core values. These years, we had core values up on in our brochures, and we didn't know them that well. Didn't talk about them very much, right? And these last years, I wouldn't say 2007, but 2010, 11 on, we've built a business where everyone knows what the core values are. They're on the back of our cards, and we meet on every few year basis to revitalize them if we need to. If our culture changes a little bit, we get different leadership, we get different team members, we might tweak one of our core values, and we've done that just recently about a year ago. But again, I think leading by core values to build the culture that you want and your team wants is very important. Right? And if your customers know that culture and they can be familiarized with it, they're gonna, if they like it, they're gonna do business with you very often because they like it, right? So why Ditchdigger CEO? So many of you guys may think this way, I don't know, but I didn't think this way early on, but I'm bothered by the message, and I don't know if you guys remember our past president, and I always get in a little bit of politics, so hopefully nobody's offended by that here, but because politics, I believe, drives our ability to innovate. Politics drives our business, our ability to be in business and be entrepreneurs. If we're in an environment where free enterprise doesn't exist, we don't have a very good shot at having the successes we all want, right? I mean, socialism does not work well with what we do every day. So I talk about this sometimes, and anybody can raise their hand and say, man, I'm really offended by that conversation, but hopefully not, because the only way we succeed is thinking. So I was bothered by some messaging I heard from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama back at a time, a few years back, when they said, government builds business. You didn't build that business, government builds business, right? I was like, wait a minute, I took a lot of risk, I've got my butt kicked, right? I've worked hard, I work mega hours always because I love what I do. So I was bothered by that, and so I said, how can I inspire more people to understand the value of free enterprise? And that's one of the main reasons I started Ditchdigger CEO. I realized that mentorship was a blessing for me. I've been blessed with it, and it's something, if I can share it consistently, I think that we can all, I can learn more as well as anybody listening. So I wanted to inspire entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship drives the success of this country. I don't care what anybody says, Israel is a great place because they understand the value of entrepreneurship, they understand the value of innovation. So, it's pretty loud. But think about this little, think about this little state of Israel, this little country of Israel, smaller than the state of Illinois by size, and smaller by population. GDP is like 3 times our state of Illinois. And they rock. I mean, there's more innovation coming out of that little country than anywhere else in the world right now, per capita. U.S. is the best, and the biggest engine for free enterprise and innovation comes from us, right? So again, how can we be more like this little country that's actually dominating per capita, U.S., and it's second only to U.S. when it comes to new businesses, new technology, right? So again, I want to inspire more entrepreneurship, because Israel is successful. They can defend their country like nobody else because of innovation. They've been able to pay for all these things, right? This great defense system and all that. America has been successful because we've been able to defend our borders and be the strongest country in the world, right? When it comes to our ability to defend our borders because of our wealth, because of innovation. So go ahead, John. So loving people. So I start with this because I think that all these things we're talking about, mentorship, right? When we look at mentorship, if you don't really love people, man, you're probably not going to be a very good mentor. If you don't love people, you're probably not going to mentor very well, or nobody's going to want to mentor you, right? If you don't love people, people don't want to serve you, and those that you're serving really don't care if you're the one serving them, right? So when I looked at my team back years ago, and I had 10, 15, 20 people working for me, I couldn't look at them and say, man, you're awesome, I love you, right? I couldn't say it sincerely that I love my teammates. I just thought they're supposed to come to work, do their job, and then go home, man, after 15 hours of slaving in the asphalt with me, right? And that was a bad attitude. I was taught by people that, work ethic is you work your ass off and you get paid for it and be happy, right? So eventually I learned more about for people to serve me well and for me to serve my customers well, they better love you. And if you don't love them, then so I understood this, but I was kind of a Catholic halfway there. My wife's a strong Catholic person, and as I learned more about the faith my wife was so passionate about, you learn that God believes. Our message is that you need to love everyone, right? I mean, even your enemy, you're supposed to love your enemy, right? So I'm listening to this stuff, you're supposed to love your enemy. How do I love this person that hates me, right? Or how do you love this person that wants me wiped off the face of the earth if it's, somebody else? But if that's what I'm supposed to believe in, right? How do I not love every person that comes to work every day with one of my company's names on their shirt, on their hat, right? Serving my customers that I need to take good care of. So it was really easy. Probably about 15 years ago, I said, man, I gotta love I like all these people. They're here working for me, and they're here because I like them. But can I love them? And at that point, I said, heck yeah, I can love them, right? So eventually, I looked at everybody on my team. I said, man, I really love you, and I love you because you're coming to work every day, and you're serving me and our customers more than you're serving your own family. I mean, you're here at work more than you're with your family, right? More than you're doing any fun things you like to do. So we got to make it fun at work. You got to love everybody, and you know, to think about this, you know, loving your enemies. Gosh, that's still tough for me to do. But to love every teammate that serves me, to love my customers that pay us to work for them, to love our vendors that also work alongside us, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? So when I think about this, I just want to do a quick thing here, and I want to do a quick breakout. You know, let's say three at a time, or you know, three in a little group. But think about who you are today. You know, you know, do I like my employees? And if they're employees, you're calling them employees. If you like them, that's their employees, right? Boy, I'm not sure I want to be called an employee myself, right? So we use teammates a lot. You know, you can use associates. People use all different things. But you know, hey, I like my employees, but you know what I was told, and this is originally, I was told, don't be friends with your employees, right? You can like them, but don't go out with them. Don't go to games with them. Don't get to know their kids, because you might have to fire them someday. You know, this is what I was told, and I was kind of like believing it, but not totally comfortable with it. You know, so is that your mentality, right? Or is it, man, I love my teammates, and they know it. And if they know it, how do they know it? Are you telling them? And then lastly, I hate my employees, right? Which one of these three are you? And tell me, and talk about just 5 minutes. I want you to break down to threes and talk about, you know, which one are you? And then why? I mean, why? How you got the mentality? And do they really know it? Because you can say I love my teammates, but do they really know it, right? So again, in threes for 5 minutes, and I want to hear what comes out. Okay, you twos or threes? Twos or threes are fine, all right?
What am I doing? We do management, asphalt projects.
What state are you in?
Ohio.
We're in Dallas.
In Dallas.
Yeah, so the two of us, we're in the export department for ProPatch, which is the patching, basically maintenance, asphalt maintenance machine that we build.
Which country are you from originally?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. I've been there a few times. St. Gallen?
Yes.
You know what?
I worked there for a couple of years.
Yeah, I have a good friend there. My watch is...
Good.
Yes.
Awesome. Mine too.
There we go. Now we can connect.
So in Switzerland, does this resonate with you, being from Switzerland, loving your employees or staying at arm's length? What do people do in Switzerland?
I mean, I worked for many years in banking, and when they have the Swiss, they don't like to fire people. So when the bank need to, you know, for their balance sheet, you know, to have show more profits for the shareholders and to get rid of people, they hire German CEOs for a time. They can fire everybody, and then the Swiss bank.
Oh,
They're tough,
God.
you know. So it's so loving. We are very what do you call it? Yeah, maybe for the Swiss, it takes a while to be friends with somebody. It's not so, you know, the first day. It's not like Texas where you're a buddy the first day, you know. It's a little bit more distant, but once you have a friend, there's a good friend. And he can be my boss. I mean, with my boss, I had a great relationship, you know. It's not, it's good. It's very good.
I think like I lived in Europe for a while. I lived in Norway for 5 years.
Okay, well.
And in Europe, the structure, the hierarchy is a little flatter, right?
Yeah.
So it's easier to approach your boss and to be closer to them and to approach the people that are working for you. Turkey maybe or something is like that, and America's maybe like this.
Yeah, I was working for 6 years in a consulting company in IT in Switzerland, and the company would always try to have events, you know, once a year, go skiing together a weekend or take us somewhere, and everybody in the leadership, you know, they would participate so you get to know them. The team building was very important, and then you feel appreciated, you know, and that's very nice.
I think I'm somewhere between both A and B.
Yeah, that's good you're not C.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm definitely not. I'm between.
But
Hey, how are you? Old man's good. He comes down for the golf tournament every year. Yeah. We usually get him tickets and stuff. So that's
Steve?
good. Yeah.
So where are y'all?
Brian was here this week.
He was. I saw him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him.
He'll hit South Carolina.
Are y'all ones, twos, threes?
We're twos, man. We're Bs. I love my teammates and they know it.
Yeah.
Sort of family. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's what we do.
They go, oh no! There go the knees.
And
Same thing. Twos.
you really feel that makes a difference?
They
You're
know,
not
yeah.
worried about getting too close to your employees and,
No.
yeah.
No, because everyone will get the most out of each other. Is the way I look at
It
it.
seems odd to expect to fire somebody. So we have to treat you like this because we expect to fire you someday.
Yeah.
And that seems like a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I want to hear a couple interesting things of this love thing, right? This kind of a goofy thing called love, right? You bring that to work, that's kind of odd, right? Love and work, come on. And construction, come on, we're construction guys and gals here. We put asphalt down and seal coat down. Why the heck would you want to love anybody that does this stuff, right? Well, because we do it ourselves by, right? CB, what'd you guys come up with? CB, I know you're a guy that believes a lot of cool things and you study a lot of stuff. What's your thoughts, buddy? How do you look at this?
Definitely think love is important. I think I'm with you that early in my career is difficult many times to even try to like somebody, let alone love. But I have found that the more love you can give, for sure, you'll get it back. We call ourselves Let's Pay Family, and we really do believe that we don't add a teammate unless we believe that they'll be part of that love.
So I like that. So family, right? I mean, some people don't want to bring that into the business either, that you're a family. And gosh, if you're a family, you got to love each other. I don't care who they are. I have family members that, man, if they were my family, I don't know if I'd talk to them ever, right? But I love them. They're my family. They're the only family I got. And in business, we need to think the same way. You know, we use the family thing a little bit because we're kind of a family business nowadays. I never thought of a family that we're a family business, and nowadays, now that my daughter and my son are really involved in business, and I've got nephews, sisters, brother-in-law, stuff that are in business. We've got probably 10 family members, so in a business of a few hundred people. So we are more of a family-oriented company today. Great family love, right? Okay. Who else? I heard something interesting there. What's your name, buddy?
Chris.
Chris, where are you from?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. All right, Chris.
So in our group, we realized that we're not just one, we're multiple. For some of us, we're all three, unfortunately.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah. What else? Who else we got? Come on. Let me get. What's your name now?
Tara from Vermont.
Tara from Vermont.
This is a real challenge for me in that my husband and I are very, very loving, optimistic people. We feel that people are innately good, and we've let people in our inner circle, and we've been really screwed over with embezzlement and a lot of drug usage, and we've hired a lot of people back 2 or 3 times, and then, we still end up getting the short end of the stick. So it's a challenge because it's hard to have the boundary of keeping emotions out of it.
Sure.
And how can you be a real person without being emotional about it? So this is a challenge for us still.
So we've had many times in our businesses where we've been let down, right, by people that have stolen from us or done things that we would never imagine, right, to take from us. But boy, and it's tough. But if you lose trust, I mean, trust should be first. If you're hiring somebody, you're hiring because you trust them. And if you hire using core values, solid core values, and you hire around those core values, and there's some really cool hiring methodology that you could use to get to the bottom of that stuff. If you do that, I believe your odds are very high that you can hire people that culturally are a fit, that believe in the core values, that hopefully drive your business not to have as many of those problems. Not to say you're going to eliminate that ever, right?
I do have to say that we've learned immensely from it, and we've become better leaders and better business owners because of it.
Yeah, awesome. Who else we got?
Say ours, maybe.
What's your name?
My name's Derek.
Derek, where are you from?
Ohio.
Ohio.
Worked with you guys on a couple projects.
All right, hopefully you're doing well.
Yeah, they went well. So I've been overseas and worked in Europe and Asia a little bit, and Alejandro and Daniel are actually from Switzerland, but they work in Texas now. So we kind of.
I want them to talk just to hear their accents.
It was nice. Both were nice. We're Argentina and Switzerland. But we kind of talked about the difference in cultures as far as leadership goes. So in Europe, I lived in Norway for 5.5 years and worked there. And it was a lot flatter structure than you'd see in America, or definitely in Asian cultures that I've worked in that are pretty vertical. And I think the flatter the structure, so in other words, the closer you can kind of be with your employees or teammates, the better, in my opinion.
Sure.
That's how I've experienced it.
So how about that upside down triangle? You think about, this pyramid, upside down pyramid, right?
Yes.
It's not flat, but it says that as leaders, she better be serving every single person above her, or she's not a very good leader, right? And you're not the leader to be served, you're the leader to serve more, right? And my cell phone is on me. Anybody in my organization who they don't work directly for me can call me anytime they want. And they call me once in a while, not that they don't bother me, they'll call me weekends and just see how things are going, or sometimes they have a real problem. And I want them always to be able to do that, right? My job in my organizations now, and I just moved to a chairman role instead of CEO, but my job is to serve everybody above me, right? If I don't do a very good job with that, so I like what you're saying. Flat organization is nice. If you're going to be flat and you're all over everything as a leader, you're a small enough organization and you're digging in with them, that's awesome, because now you're part of the team. But when you get bigger and bigger, right, you can't actually be everywhere. Can't be as flat. But as leaders, as you bring leaders on, they got to be leaders that serve others before themselves, and that's kind of the upside down pyramid, right? I'm sure most of you guys have heard that, but important.
Mark Estrada, Houston, Texas.
Wait, what's your name?
Mark Estrada, Houston, Texas.
Mark Estrada, Houston, Texas.
Yes, I feel that it's very important to have a personal relationship with your guys. What I've experienced is they're more open for accountability, and they're more open to to meet halfway and to compromise.
I like it.
A guy who doesn't have, you can't see eye to eye with, will just quit on you.
Yeah.
Or just fire you. Or you just fire him, or him or her. And, like in your relationship, there's compromise. You meet halfway. And what we do is we start from a baseline, and we give them their expectations. We show them exactly, where we see them in the next 2 years, and we ask them where they see themselves in the next 2 years.
Perfect.
And how we can
Perfect.
help.
That's a great thing to do. I mean, keeping in touch with your teammates, right, to understand what their vision is, right? You have a vision in your business to go wherever you're going to go, right? Whether it's a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year vision. It's not necessarily exactly where every teammate wants to go, right? But if you can find out where they want to go, and now they're going to drive to be part of that vision if they like your vision. If they don't like your vision, man, maybe you can help them find something else somewhere else outside your business, and that's a good thing too, right? So that they know you care about them. We have these different companies, and what we're trying to do nowadays is say, we lose good people sometimes because we're not sharing the vision with them in every business we have. So what happens is we'll lose a great teammate because in that business, their opportunities they feel is stunted. Not even realizing that in the other 7 companies, there's opportunities they could be applying for, right? But they think, that person's going to be mad at them. They're not going to. So our goal in the future is to make sure that everybody in our organization, from our golf course to our paving business, to know that if they want another opportunity in any one of our businesses, they're going to have a leg up on anybody else. And that leader, whoever that leader is for them, better not get pissed about it, right? They better be okay with it. Because if it's better than an individual, it's better for our organization. And if it's with an agreement that they're going to mentor the next person in their role, man, how cool is that, right? As long as they're going to mentor and stay on board to mentor somebody into their role, then it's a win-win-win, right? So good stuff. And accountability, like you said, accountability is like one of the biggest things. It's our second core value in our organization. So important, right?
And empowerment, a lot of these guys, they've never had empowerment before, especially in our industry.
You're right.
I mean, it's a second chance industry, third chance industry.
You're right. It's tough to find good people.
You give someone that kind of empowerment and that kind of positivity that they have not really experienced before. I mean, we've seen nothing.
Absolutely. So I'll say one more thing. Anybody else got anything on love? On love. Mike, you missed it. Mike, our COO just walked in, but Mike had other things he had to be at. But Mike knows about the love thing, But here's what I also believe. Mike came from a company that was a $500 million company to come up to our organization. And the company he was with was one of their biggest things was safety, right? They have to be concerned with safety. They're underground utility company. our thing as well. It's got to be safety, right? We got to be strong in safety, and we are. Today, more than ever, we are. We can get a lot better, and we're going to get a lot better. But our mod rate in the last 5 years has been lower than it's ever been in our history of our businesses, right? And that's important, not just for your insurance cost and the cost to do business, but also people are going home safe, man. That's what we got to have, right? We're working on dangerous stuff, dump trucks backing up into pavers and all kinds of crazy things, right? Rollers, falling off of trailers. So, but when I look at the concept of love, right? If I can sincerely, and Janelle can sincerely, there's Roddick, who's one of our main guys in the field, a project manager, an all-star project manager, right? They don't know each other that well. She just took over the spot, but she better love that guy because he's a kick-ass guy that serves us every day and serves our customers every day, right? She's got to learn that, and if she does, and she's a loving person, it's not too tough for her, right? But bottom line is, if she does, think about the safety in the field when every team member out there actually cares about each other. It's hard to get them all to love each other, but man, maybe our crews, they do, right? They hang out together after work, they go to vacations together, and if they care about each other, and we have a strict laws, rules of safety, they're going to watch out for you and say, man, get your glasses on. What are you doing saw cutting without glasses on, right? Or dude, man, where's your hard hat? We got people working all around us. Where's your hard hat, right? And so I'm very confident that our safety culture is derived from our culture of loving each other, right? And as long as we can get stronger at that, we're going to get stronger at safety as well. So that's enough of that. I think it's important. So again, let's go back. So serve, innovate, mentor. So let's say this again. If we can be world class at these three things after interviewing, again, you can listen to these Ditchdiggers too. I'll talk about a few of these people. You will go beyond what you think in success, right? If you can be world class in these three things, so find the businesses, find your friends, find the people you know that excel at these things at the highest levels. Don't go after people that they're average. Don't go to the company down the street unless they're world class, right? Don't waste your time with average, right? Spend your time with people that you know are in the industries that they're just kicking butt in, right? Go ahead, next one. So. Serve. I got Dennis Barcine was a guy that kicked butt. This guy had a vision of being a CEO when he was 25 years old. But everything he did, everybody said, man, you're the best I've ever seen it doing this or this. But one of his things he remembers is, he mucked stalls at 15 years old. His brother was in a polo team. And he was a polo guy, his older brother was a polo. He ended up making money mucking stalls, right? Shoveling crap, right? In stalls in Oak Brook, Illinois. And he said, the guy said, you're the best I've ever seen. You seriously the best, horse crap mucker I've ever seen, right? And he took a lot of pride in that. And he said, man, if I can shovel shit this well, I can do, and I can be the best at this, I'm going to be the best at whatever I do. So Dennis became a great sales guy. And eventually he said, man, where can I have the most success in sales, right, in the future? Somehow he fell into technology. He started to work for Silicon Valley technology companies, from Illinois to technology companies in Silicon Valley. Then he had a goal of by 40, his goal number was like 42. He said, by 42, I'm going to be a CEO of a technology company. I'm going to learn everything I can about sales and customer service, that whatever product I represent, we're going to kick butt, and it's going to be a great success. So, but at 40 years old, he had an opportunity. He had somebody that asked if he was interested in running their business as an executive. He said, man, you know what, I want to be a CEO, that's my goal, CEO by 42, and it's 40 now, I'm getting close. They gave him the opportunity to apply to be the CEO of this little tiny technology company. So at 40 years old, became the CEO. By 43 years old, it was over 100 million in sales. By like 44 or 5, it was a few hundred million. That company that company went public back then. This is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Went public. Became one of the biggest increases from the time it went public to in the few days after it went public. So he made more money than any. It was like the fifth biggest. So you can listen to the story, but like the fifth biggest technology public success story, right? Public company. So he did that, and he did it like in 5 years. He was on board for like a year or so. Then he went off to join another little technology company that hired him. That company grew to a few $100 million company again, sold it for a ton of money. He was a large partner in it. He did it a third time. So Dennis, in the Chicagoland area, people don't know him. He's a quiet billionaire. He's the biggest. Northern Illinois University, CB, or anybody from Illinois, He's the biggest donor to Northern Illinois University. The business center, their entrepreneurship center is Barcima Hall. But Dennis, all he thought about was how do I serve better, right? How do I innovate better, right? And you could talk about all his mentors in his life, but he seeked out mentorship of CEOs that he could be like, right? So again, anything you do, be the best at it, right? So what do you do to compete and serve at a world-class level? And think about this. Continue to think about these things in your head. What do you do in your business to serve like a Ritz-Carlton, right? Like a Let's Pay, like anybody you respect in business, in this industry or otherwise, right? So innovate to compete and lead a market. So differentiator, my thing is this, differentiate or die. I talk about this a lot, but either we get better every year and we differentiate every year, or we can expect to get complacent like some people, some businesses, some relationships, and we're not going to be around very long, right? So I can't be the only one that thinks about differentiation. I push my teammates to constantly think about it, right? It's a simple concept, right? Differentiate, but it's not that easy. A lot of things you do differentiate are going to cost you money. You're going to go buy this expensive piece of equipment, and gosh, a nice piece of equipment does a good job if you got the right people, but there's not a lot of work there, right? And you lose investing in something that could be good, but the market's not as big as you thought, right? So we've been at the bleeding edge very often in innovation and differentiation and costs money. But I believe you got to fail often, right, before you actually see real success. So let's think about strongest differentiations in your business, right? And so mentorship, seeking knowledge of champions. So this is Paul Darley. Paul Darley is a guy that took over a family business. Now this business started on great innovation. His grandfather, and it's kind of crazy, over 100 years ago, built the first fire trucks. And he found a guy that he got to be friends with that was pretty successful back then, right? So it was Henry Ford. So Henry Ford and his grandfather built one of the first brands of fire trucks on a Ford frame that they beefed up. So his grandfather was quite innovative. But when Paul took over the company, became the CEO of the company, he had 6, 7 older brothers, and he was the youngest and became the CEO. He was picked to be the CEO. But the company was, was like an amazing thing. It was a $15 million company. It was massive, like you would think at that time, probably 80 years, 75 years in business, 80 years. So he took this business on as a CEO, and today that company is $400 to 500 million in revenues, and he's got a vision for $1 billion within a few years because he's innovating so much. So here's a 3rd generation family business, and he's pushing 60 years old, right? But he believes in this so much that as a 3rd generation family business, if you don't continually take risks, continually think of what's next, right? You're not going to get there. So Paul's thing is, within this though, this whole deal, if you're going to be the best, if you're going to constantly innovate, he believes one thing that's so important, and it's emotional intelligence. So another kind of thing that sounds kind of corny, back 20 years ago we talked about, come on, that's corny. Emotional intelligence, we're not in the world of psychology here, right? But how many people here talk about emotional intelligence in their businesses? Okay, talk about it more and more, because again, connectivity, love, all these things start with emotional intelligence. The better you can connect with people around you, right? The better you care about them, right? The more they care about you, the stronger you are with emotional intelligence, right? Paul is one of the best. Paul wrote a book on business and sales success, and a book that actually a strong seller. But this guy believes this so much. His business has grown from that 15 million to over 400 million in revenues in the last 25 years. But their biggest growth has been the last 5 years, and the last 5 years they're nothing like what they were 5 years before. So what they do? They were the Sears catalog for firehouses, selling fire products, right, to firemen, pumps and hoses and all kinds of stuff. Today, their biggest business is government business across the globe. They sell to countries now, and they sell to the U.S. government and all that. But again, he believes that connectivity and emotional intelligence is the most important thing for him when it comes to mentorship, right? If he's going to mentor, he better connect really well. So who's your favorite mentor? Who do you mentor? How do you network to grow relationships? So think about your favorite mentor in your life today. Who is it, right? Who's that person? Take a picture in your mind of the person that you believe gives you the best vision for your future, right? And then think about, could you be that type of mentor, right? And are you that type of mentor to a little brother, your kids, right? Of course, you probably are. And how can you affect their life to make them better than they are, right? Right? And then, how do you network to mentor? So you need to think about networking. I'm going to network, I'm going to meet this person, I'm going to get their card, I'm going to write this down, another name in my book, right? But really, the most important thing is connecting and mentoring. Say, man, if there's somebody in another industry that you want to serve, maybe, or a business you want to serve, how can you serve them first, even outside your industry? Right? How can you serve them besides pavements and sweeping and patching and all that? Because if you do that, now you connect at a level with a great emotional intelligence. You found out more about them. You serve them with something maybe you don't even do, right? But you connect with them. So again, then when you mentor, or excuse me, when you network, and you want to create a great network in your life, right? Of great people that are cheerleaders for you. If you're always looking at that, serving them first, I guarantee you, even if they're not cheerleaders for you, I guarantee you they're thinking positively of you, and as your name comes up, yeah, that CB dude, he's a cool guy. Yeah, he helped me even when nobody else would, right? Man, that Roddick on that one job, we got it done in a week instead of 2 weeks because Roddick thought outside the box on how to get it done for us faster, right? So again, I think it's important. Mentorship is used over and over again, but it's how do you mentor your teammates, right? Those people you're serving, and how do you seek out mentorship on a constant basis to be the best at the things we're talking about, right? So serving, right? I mean, this is Ray Nicewander is one of our ditch diggers. He has one of the biggest door manufacturing companies in the world. It's called Rainer Doors. They're a little town called Dixon, Illinois. So Ray, his thing is he serves his customers and his employees, right? Team members, employees, associates, whatever you want to call them, right? Here's what he thinks about. The ultimate leadership is leading others to heaven, right? And he talks about his faith in his business a lot. And his goal is to bring, he's a strong Catholic faith guy, and one of my really good friends. And I've learned a lot from him. I'm a better person because I'm friends with him, right? But Ray has about a couple thousand employees now, or teammates, or associates. What do we choose to call them, right? But he's got a couple thousand people that are on his team. So think about Ray, man. Yeah, can he really get this message across to all those people? He believes he does the best job he can, and he constantly leads this way. And he that's all he cares about is how can I get this friend of mine who doesn't have any belief at all. How can I get him there, right? Is there a way I can help them, right? Or a person's got in a tough time in their life, right? How can he take them to a better place, right? So he's an amazing giving guy. Serves his industry super well. They're known to be higher priced, but higher quality. We actually have a door. One of our companies was a roofing maintenance company that also bolted on doors and docks. So we buy stuff from Ray, but his stuff is more expensive. We know that, hey man, if customers will pay a little more, love to use Rainer because you're not going to have to do much with those doors for a long time, right? But so there's a better mindset of serving others than that, right? Really, I mean, is there a better mindset of saying, man, this earth is here we're here on this earth for a short period of time, man. And if we believe in something above us, that's amazing, right? How do we help others get there? And if you do that on this earth, it's called serving on a constant basis, right? So, next one. So innovate, right? So this is an amazing story. This guy. So this guy, innovation is all over the place. Innovation can be simple innovation, just doing something a little different than your competition, right? It could be crazy innovation, something where you're bringing technology nobody's seen in your space, right? But this guy's had a mind of innovation since he was 12, 13 years old. Grew up in a small village in Mexico, a couple hundred people. And his mother had a first grade education, father had like a fourth grade education. And his mother wanted her boys to grow up with an education. So she fed him books. She found books, that she could get from garbages or whatever. But somehow she got a hold of a bunch of medical books, and they're all in English. And she had all these medical books. She was pushing down to Roberto as a young boy, 8, 9, 10 years old, to read them. So he had to figure out how to read English and then understand it all. But by like 11 years old, 12 years old, he comes up with this goal. My goal, Mom, is to cure the incurables. All these diseases that aren't being cured. Mom, someday I'm going to cure the incurables. And the mother's saying, oh, that's great, Roberto, right? What does that mean? Her goal was for him to be the doctor in the village. And still today, now he's my age, he's 56 years old, his mom is still saying, when are you going to be our village doctor, right? Well, this guy now is a world-class neuroscientist. He's curing Parkinson's. He's got a cure for Parkinson's. He's curing people with Parkinson's like nobody else in the world has. He's working on Alzheimer's. He's had some great success with Alzheimer's, dementia, stroke victims, many things, right? I met this guy through networking again. I met this guy through a woman, Laura Ingram Angle on TV. I had dinner with her and her sidekick Ray. Told him my wife has brain cancer. So I tell people this all the time because I always want to seek out more knowledge on brain cancer, right? So sure enough, Laura said, I got somebody you've got to talk to. You've got to meet this guy. He's amazing. He understands the brain like nobody else. He's doing things to cure incurable diseases in the brain. So sure enough, she calls him for me. I get to meet him. He's one of my best friends today. Actually, I own a call right now. He called me last night. I didn't get back to him. But Roberto, now, what did Roberto do? He grew up in this little village. He got a scholarship at 15 years old. So he enters what's med school, and it's like a 4-year degree and med school combined in Mexico City. He goes there. He's there at 15. He enters just almost 16 years old, and he doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a place to stay. His parents didn't know he had a board, room and board too, right? He got the scholarship. Go ahead, go, right? He goes there. Where am I supposed to stay? There's nowhere to stay. He ends up finding a hospital where he says, can I do maintenance in this hospital? He's got a roof over the head. He can be around doctors and all that, right? They give him a job. And this guy today, he's 5'4", 5'5", right? He looks young today. What did he look like when he was 15, 16 years old? I asked him the question. He goes, maybe 12 years old, right? So what happened was the doctors took him under their wings, and the doctors brought him into surgery. They said, this kid's going to med school. He looks like a 12-year-old kid, right? But he's going to school for medicine. And they took him under his wing. At 16 years old, he delivered his first baby. At 17 years old, he did his first cesarean section, right? And in Mexico, I guess you can get away with some of that, right? But either way, this guy progressed. He ended up going to Johns Hopkins next, and then Harvard after that. Got his PhD at Harvard, and he said he gets his PhD. They want him to be a professor, right? And this is like a big deal, right? When you're at this point, he was pushing to be a doctor. Then now it's a professor. And then he's thinking, he goes, man, I can't do what I said I was going to do if I'm a professor. I can't cure the incurables, right? He'd make good money. I got big status. My mom will be proud. I'm not a doctor back in the village, but she'll probably be proud. Anyway, he says, I can't do this. He went to MIT to get his neuroscience doctorate, neuroscience, right? And he got that, and he said, wow, now, how do I really do this cure? And he did some pretty cool things. He worked under some cool doctors, but he wanted to go further. He found out that in India, they have more cases, issues with fewer doctors dealing with brain diseases than anywhere else. So each doctor would do 5 to 10 more cases than in America. And they had a lot more leeway to kind of do things their own way. So sure enough, he went to India to study. And this is now he's probably, I think he was 28, 30 years old, went to India to study. And he learned underneath all these different brain surgeons, oncologists, all about what they're doing differently there. He met a scientist there that now is another friend of mine because I went to India for all this treatments with my wife. But he met a scientist that was looked upon by the president of the country as well as the governor of the state that he's in as the Nikola Tesla of India. This guy's crazy. I can tell you lots of stories about this guy. But bottom line is, he learned what he was doing with electromagnetic energy to treat the neurons in the brain. He actually did stuff all over the body. But Roberto said, I want to focus this attention only on neurons, only on the brain and curing incurables. Sure enough, he did that for 7 years. And within 4 or 5 years, they're seeing big results in stuff they're doing. Today, he's cured many people with Parkinson's, including his biggest investor today. He's got a clinic in Monterrey, Mexico, and we're trying to get him to America with this technology in the next couple of years. So crazy, right? How networking can bring all this together, right? And there was where I can meet this cool guy, and I'm part of hopefully getting him to America to treat these crazy diseases, right? So innovate. This guy is the picture of innovation. And if anybody said, man, I don't want to meet this guy, he's really, really, really unbelievable. If anybody wants to meet him and talk about what he does, he loves talking about it. And this is a guy in a totally different industry, totally different world that we can learn so much from. It's unbelievable. So mentorship again, this is Ryan Dalby. This guy built logistics company to be one of the biggest in the country, and sold it 2 years ago, I guess. Ryan's now like 42 years old, and he's done very, very well. But you're the average. This is something you probably all have heard, right? But Ryan believes this and has been taught this, and you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with most, right? So pick them wisely. You're 5 people that you're around most, right? Pick them wisely, right? If they're negative, they're envious, they could be your friend, but maybe number 50 or 60, right? Not number 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Pick those friends that they're going to make you better than you could ever be, right? And hopefully you can make them better than they could ever be without you. But simple concept, right? You're the example, the average of your 5 best friends. So think about your 5 best friends. Are they going to make you better? And if they're not, think about adding a few more friends and pushing them down the ladder. Oh, that Paul Darley story is kind of another story. Paul, when you think about this, he lists his friends from 1 to 50. And he'll tell you where you're at. And his goal is that 1 to 10, they better be serving him a little bit, because he'll serve them too, right? And as he gets older, he says, man, I don't know how much time I can spend with number 48. Sorry, Gary, you're number 48, dude. Once in a while, but you got to be limited with you. You're 48, man. I got 47 before you. So actually, I'm number 9 now on his list. In his book, he talks about it, that I'm his lowest ranking YPOer. I'm number 1 in YPOers, and he's got a lot of YPO friends. But I don't really care, right? But he invites you to his top 10, get a trip every year he pays for, to Florida, island somewhere, whatever he pays for. And anyway, most of his top 10 are guys that are people that have been friends with him since he was a really young kid. But that's Paul Darley companies that I talked about earlier. But again, kind of the same concept, right? Paul wants to spend his life with the friends that make him the best he can be, and he rates them he'll tell everybody, he knows exactly what the number is. I made the top 10 a few years ago. I missed a couple of his top 10 vacations because he tells me too late, so I dropped down to 11 again, right? Last year I finally went, it's okay, Rabine, you're number 9. You're stuck at number 9 now, man. Good job. All right, thanks, Paul. But choose your friends wisely, right? So next one, Joe. So let's do this breakout session really quick. So how do you measure up and rate yourself on these things? So rate yourself on these 3 things. Pick a different partner. If you got to move, pick a different partner. Okay. I don't want everybody sponging off of this guy here. I want other people to learn from CB. But okay, so pick a different partner this time. But how do you rate yourself 1 to 10 on these things, right? How do you serve? How good are you at this? How good are you right now at innovating and thinking about getting better and stronger? And lastly, mentorship, right? How well do you reach out to the best minds in the world to be mentored by? And how well do you mentor others, brothers, sisters, teammates, right? All right? So after rating yourself, share one thing that you do to be exceptional at any of these things, right? If there's something you do here to be exceptional at any of them, I want to hear about it, right?
Tell me you're trying to work your way out.
Okay? Right!
First off, y'all go ahead, because I don't know exactly if I'm right about this or not.
You're right.
There's no right or wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think when it comes to serving, that's definitely something that my husband and I do. We're giving employees, sometimes to our detriment, but I think that's pretty important, to be able to be available, to be able to be giving, to be able to let your employees know that they can come to you.
And to tell you the truth, it's really hard to be high levels on each and every one of these.
Right.
Because if you are, a 10 on each and every one of these, you spread yourself out, but it's much too thin. And, that's where I'm slacking on, because I love my innovation. And I am, I'm all about being ahead of the curve. But, my mentorship goes into the back burner, because,
It takes time.
It takes a lot of time. And I feel that's my next step, is working on mentorship, working on training with the new innovations.
Right.
That's the number one thing that we need to do, is more mentorship, more training. And so, I think I was like about a 7 on almost all of them, 7 or 8, And then some of them I feel like they kind of overlap too, like serving and mentorship, But
When asked who's my mentor, I think that I'm about to go back to town and join a group of a bunch of business owners, and it's a networking group that I haven't been in before. But I feel like I've been so busy running the company for the last 5 years that I've slacked in my own development.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's hard to find real life mentors. I feel like a lot. I go to YouTube or find other videos. That's I would say the majority of my mentorship. I work with my my father and brother, but yeah, I would say I get a lot of the external stuff from online.
I think that's one of the great things about MPE is that each and every one of these companies in here,
Right.
we're all looking for the same thing, and I think the mentors are here.
Definitely.
And you know what? Everyone that's going to help us is here.
Right.
And the vibes that we get from here every year, it's absolutely amazing with the networking.
Right.
And it's awesome to know that you're not the only one either.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because you get submerged.
Right.
You get submerged in your company, and before you know it, you don't know why,
The years pass.
you're slacking.
Right.
Yeah, you don't know why you're stagnant.
Kind of get put into the bubble of your company, and this is where the bubble.
Guys saying some good stuff back here?
We are. Innovation, I'm with you guys. I'd like to be better at that. And mentorship, I spend a lot of time mentoring. I'm at that stage in my life where that takes higher precedence.
Sure, makes sense.
But innovation, that's my weakest.
Yeah, I think everyone.
It's hard to, especially in business, when you're seal coating and patching and striping. How innovative can you be?
Yeah,
I'm sure way more than we realize.
Innovative in the way you serve your customers, I guess.
There's a couple guys I can think of that I would put there with their innovation is very high, and because they innovate, I would say that for us, that brings their serving numbers up. Because for us, because they innovate, it allows us to kind of prosper, I would think, because off of their innovations. If they share them, which mentorship, I guess, would be their way of sharing it. So,
Can you give an example?
Innovation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Starting that up?
Well, I didn't start it, but my mentor did. So, and I'm kind of the pusher, if you will. But yeah, that's. I think it's innovative. Because guys could go, just like Marvin when he started one of the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Now it's the biggest one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But guys can go and ask questions and say, hey, how do I do this? And I guess in terms of not only innovating, it's probably a way to be a mentor too.
Yeah,
I guess if you think about that.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a way to mentor because you meet guys that have just randomly found you through the forums and the Facebook groups.
Like innovation is one of the big ones that we seem to be low on, but one that if you were to bring that number up, it would bring the other ones up as a byproduct.
I think also we rank it low because innovation is solving cancer.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to do.
I think that's how we measure it. But I think innovation, there's a lot of little innovative things we do in our lives.
It's funny you brought up the thing that you're at this stage in your life to mentor. A lot of the guys that are mentoring me now have been in business longer than me, but they're younger than me, which is kind of really weird.
This is one of my deep lessons in life. So are you guys chess players?
I am.
So you remember Bobby Fischer?
Yeah, of course.
And he lost it because a kid beat him?
Yeah.
Well, that kid reported to me once.
Really?
For a couple of years. So someone that smart being led by someone as dumb as I, so dumb as me. That was a great lesson in my life. And I also had another one at the job before where I'm at now, very high IQ. And I think you got to be humble enough to learn from them.
Yeah.
The young people can also.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of what we have a good blend here. Is I don't consider myself young, but we're young, I guess, amongst our peers. And there's a good blend because they give us insight. The ones that are way up there, they give us our insight, and we're on we're spending time on things that don't interest them, they don't understand, and we're able to simply tell them how this can benefit them as well. So for us here, especially at MPE and in our industry, now that we're all tangled together with social media, I think it's become the best blend I think that we could have ever asked for, because the guys that do want to mentor have somebody to mentor easily, they can pick one, and the guys that are seeking mentors, it allows them to express how much they want to be mentored and be done correctly.
But you know what? For me, that's a tough one to rate myself on, because I feel like, how can I mentor somebody if I'm seeking? I'm constantly seeking that information.
You can
Until
learn
somebody
something
asks you that
there's
question.
at least one thing you can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
Young or old.
Right.
Mean or nice.
Yes.
And
I think it's tactical. It's tactical to stay sharp, and there's also that emotional thing, as our speaker was talking about, because it makes you feel good to mentor, and then to be mentored makes you feel good too, because you're saying, oh, this guy must care. Otherwise, for somebody to take time to mentor you, that means that they believe that spending their time with you means something for you, and for them to do that over an amount of time means that you must be doing something right or be the right kind of cat, because it seems like that's the way it goes when we mentor.
Before we're done, would you be so kind as to talk about your Facebook group? How does somebody get to that if they wanted to know about it?
Sure. So there's a few groups now.
One of them to talk about them all.
Yeah, one of them is the U.S. Seal Coaters Group. That's on Facebook. Pavement Maintenance Pros, Asphalt Seal Coaters USA. The other forums is the Pavement Guru forums. That's an online website. And then a lot of it is, if you go to Instagram and type in hashtag seal coating, you're going to find everybody. If you type in hashtag line striping, you're going to find everybody. So it's pretty easy nowadays to get found and kind of see what your flavor is. But that's the easiest way.
All right.
I want to expand, because so those are mostly seal coating groups, and that's the one thing why this came about, because it's paving, seal coating, sweeping, striping,
everything. Yeah,
it's kind of everything meshed together.
Yeah, and you're right.
Just research it, and it's so new. I think it started 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
give or take.
Yeah.
So there's 4,000 posts among
paid
320
thing, a free
members.
thing? What is it?
I'm sorry.
Is it paid subscription or?
No, it's free. All free. It's just a networking and help the industry.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
pretty neat.
Help people,
It's
you know?
pretty neat.
Make it up now, all right. We got 20 minutes left. 20 minutes left. Hopefully it's going fast for you guys, not like slow, and when's it going to be over, right? Hopefully it's, hey man, I want more of this. Can we go another 2 hours? Probably don't want that. But, Alec, what'd you come up with? One, two, three. What do you feel where you at right now? As a young guy you are.
Yeah, not great. And as we kind of discussed,
Alec, where are you from?
Peoria, Illinois.
Peoria, Illinois.
So we're not too far. I think I've quoted some stuff for you guys before. Maybe did some stuff.
Did you meet Janelle there?
I have not yet.
Janelle's got to get out and meet people.
There you go. So no, I gave myself a 3 on all of these. So
All right.
kind
You're how
of
old are
depressing.
you?
30.
You're 30, so I was maybe a 1 or 2 on all these, probably at 30, so you're doing all right. So the key now is, right, you got a lot of room to grow.
Right.
And how much is that going to control your success in the future if you grow in all these things, right? It'll be crazy. Crazy.
So we're still kind of a younger company, and we, I struggle with, you spend so much time working in the business that you don't take enough time to work on the business, and it seems to me like these are those type of
That's
things.
a great point, right? I mean, as you're small in business, you got to work in the business every day. You don't have time for all this stuff. But man, you got to somehow make time. And something we talk about now more than ever is who's your number 2? Who's the number 2 that could be a number 1 in every phase of leadership in your business? Yourself and everybody else around you. Because if you're not grooming that number 2, man, you're not very sustainable. And we look at business value. All these things create crazy business value, in my opinion. CB, you've been a part of a couple sales and business and all that, right? If you don't do these things very well, the value's not very, very good. If you don't have a number 2, right, to lead, and you want to sell your business, it's not worth a lot. It's all relying on Alec, right? So you want to build business that goes beyond yourself, not that job that we talked about earlier, right? So again, 3. CB, where are you at?
with age, I'm 46, I think like you, I hope every year I try to increase that. In my discussion, I think I rank highest in the serve and mentorship. It's been a big part of my life, especially the last 5 years. Innovate is where I've always lacked. Try and surround myself with good people that are more creative than me. I don't think I'm always the most creative person for that innovation side, and I'm trying to do a better job of getting myself an hour a day now, finally, to work on the business more than work in the business.
Awesome.
So I'm really trying to improve the innovation side.
Cool. So you.
I'll give it a solid 8 on serve and mentorship, and a 5 on innovate.
All right. So, pretty good. This guy does great things in his business and continually leads, right? But he knows he's got a lot of room to go, and that's awesome because you got to know what you don't know, right?
I think delegation
Is it Alejandro? What's your name again?
Mark.
Mark. Okay.
Oh, you're fine. People know me as all kinds of names.
All right, Mark.
Delegation takes care of most of that because I have experience. You know, I run a business with my best friend. He loves sales. I love innovating. Mentorship goes into the back burner because of that a lot, and that's where I'm catching myself right now. And the delegation, we started that this last year, and it's amazing because people they have strong points, and every person has a strong point. And every one of those.
Yeah.
Every one of those. I mean, it's important because that's how you truly expand.
So you mentioned 2 things. Delegating is important as long as you're delegating the right people that are accountable, right, for whatever you're delegating to them, right? So you mentioned those 2 things. You can delegate all day long. I've delegated many times, not probably to the person that's passionate about what I'm asking them to do, right? So then accountability comes in and not very strong sometimes. What was your name?
I'm Marvin.
Marvin, nice to meet you. Where are you from, Marvin?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, geez, what part of Wisconsin?
The hills, the country. The good part. Yeah.
So Wisconsin hillbilly, is that what you're saying?
Right, where the cows roam free and the beer flows like wine. So I just really wanted to quick elaborate. I think it's funny the way that the way we view ourselves, but definitely through this, because the numbers I give myself and where I need to improve, maybe other people don't view that. Mark, who just spoke, he's one of my mentors. We're the same age. He's in a field that I lack in desperately. And for him to say he needs to bump that up, I don't know what that guy can do more for me. So it's an interesting perspective because we view ourselves differently, I guess, than what other people view us.
Right. I mean, we all come from different paradigms, right? And that's where the EI comes in, understanding what somebody's strength is by where they came from. Right? If you don't take time to seek and understand a person and what they love, what their passions are, what they're good at, right, you're probably not going to be delegating very successfully. I've had that problem in my time, in my life. So would you give yourself a numbers? 1, 2, 3, what?
Yeah. So when we were first sitting here, I gave myself 8 on serve, probably 4 on innovate, and probably a 9 on mentorship, I would say. But after we talked, I guess I bumped myself up on innovate, and then you realize that if but innovate seems like, maybe to me anyways, it seems like the one that I lack in the most and the one that's maybe the least amount important, but then you realize that if you were to innovate more, that serves your peers around you, which also means that they need to ask you about whatever you're innovating on, and that leads to mentorship as well. So
nice.
in our little group, we figured that, or at least I did, that innovation is one that could bring the other 2 up to speed.
Awesome. And think about, if you think about innovation, that's great. If you think about serving, that's all great, right? If you think about mentoring, that's all great. But if everybody knows that's what you're about, now they're coming in and saying, man, you got to hear about this cool innovation. I think it might apply to your industry, right?
Yep.
And if people know this or your friends, they're bringing you stuff, right? And you can feed off of it. I had a friend of mine that came to me 3 months ago. And they know we have this one company called Site, and we basically do site evaluations using drones, satellite imagery, AI. It's growing nicely, and it's a really cool business to serve our customers, right? But a friend of mine from Dallas, Texas, called me one day and said, Gary, I got a guy you got to meet. Okay, go tell me more. He goes, I was in Israel, and he's always looking to invest in companies in Israel. Like I talked about, great, cool things going on there. I got a company that I'm looking to invest in that you need to know. Tell me more. He says, this company can see water underground as much as 12 to 20 feet underground. They can see groundwater. They can see water leaking from pipes, treated water. And I go, really? That's pretty cool. For sight and everything else we do, it's pretty important, isn't it, to understand if there's water leaking below our pavements? Okay? So this guy flew over, the CEO of this company. Now, the CEO of this company and the COO, the CEO is a general, was a general in the military over there. The COO was the founder. COO was an inventor of a product for NASA. NASA somehow got in front of MIT and Tel Aviv University, some of the smartest technology minds in the world, in school, they're in university, and said, we need to figure out how much water is on Mars and Venus. So these young people were trying to figure out, how do we figure out how much water is on Mars and Venus? This young man is the mind that figured it out, and he patented the process. And so he figured that out. NASA uses that product today. But then this CEO, this guy came along, this CEO, and said, man, we can really monetize that for the country if you can figure out all these, the water on Venus and Mars. You sure that can figure out on Earth? Well, yeah, that's easy, right? So bottom line is they figured out how to understand where water leaks are as much as like a gallon. I think it's a gallon an hour. Anything more than a gallon an hour they can see from satellite imagery. How crazy is this, right? So they flew over. I got to know them. I sent them back home. I said, hey man, we can use this, but I tell you what I really need. I need to figure out if there's just groundwater. You know, if treated water is something it's something we can use. But I want to know where groundwater is, from irrigation, from springs underwater, because that's what screws up pavements in more ways than anything. And most of you guys probably know that, right? Groundwater is the biggest killer of long-term pavements. So sure enough, he went home, and a month later he called us and said, man, I want to come out. I want to come out and see you guys. And by the way, I think my son Austin gave him 3 properties to look at, and they flew out, and they came and sat with us and said, okay, here's what I got. And they showed us how they figured out all the groundwater on these 3 big million-plus square foot properties that we knew was already there. By the way, they also figured out moisture problems in the roofs of these huge buildings too, right? So guess what? Now we got something. So right now we built a partnership with them to go along with site, right? But again, there's no way I'd ever know that unless my friend in Dallas knew that I'm always wanting to innovate and I'm always wanting to grow in the space we're in. And he knew about site, right? So again, talk about what you're doing. Talk about your goals. If you do this every day, you're going to live them. People are going to push you to live them, right? So it's really important to do that. So anybody else? Anybody else want to? Anybody get 10s at 3 10s here? Everybody's got room. Maybe get 3 1s. I might have had 3 1s for the first 15 years I was in business. I mean, I was a total hillbilly, and that's okay, right? I learned as I went. But man, if you can if you can know in your heart that you're an 8 across the board, boy, that'll be pretty substantial, right? In your success. Next one. So how far can you go, right? If you exceed your goals, become world class in these 3 Shiniest Nuggets. And we said in the beginning that it doesn't seem that difficult, but we all admitted that we're 3s, we're 5s, we're 4s, we're 8s, whatever. So man, think Elon Musk, right? This guy's in how many different industries now, and he's kicking butt in most of them. Right? I guarantee you, he's pretty good at 2 out of 3 of these for sure. All right? What else you got, So again, simple, serve, what do you got? You get the same way, let's say it again, serve, innovate, right? And mentorship, right? Simple stuff, isn't it? It's not a big deal, but again, if you want to be the best of the best, that's what you got to go. What else you got, Joe? Thank you, that's it. Wow, we're under time. How about that? So questions, and I wanted to go into more of the stories. I didn't think I'd have time with these crazy Ditchdigger CEO stories I got, because some are amazing. I've got one guy I'm good friends with today that I just met and then invited him on and became good friends with him. He was as a 2-year-old, his family and his older brother and mom and dad were rescued by our soldiers in Vietnam. And he was in Viet Cong. His village was being decimated by Viet Cong. His family and a few thousand others got rescued by American soldiers, dumped on an aircraft carrier. And he doesn't remember, but his older brother and parents will never forget, and told the story all along of us, American soldiers, pushing these helicopters off in the ocean. There were $20, $30 million helicopters, so they could fit another 300 people, right? Because they're just squeezing them on this aircraft carrier. So he grew up hearing his story. They ended up in Washington State. Washington State took all these people from Vietnam, and he all he wanted to do was serve our country. He was so proud of this country that he was dumped into, and his parents never stopped talking about the blessings of this country. His dad became a pretty successsul guy, and mom, they came here with and they had nothing, right? They weren't getting big checks when they got here. They had to figure it out. The bottom line is, Francis actually served in the, he got to West Point, and he was successful in West Point, became an Army Ranger. He went to law school after the Army, and started his own law firm, built a law firm, a big law firm in California. But he invested in a technology company that he became the CEO of. And he figured out how to serve a market that nobody else served before. Sold the company for $400 or $500 million bucks. Still growing the law firm today, but still constantly saying, you know, how do we serve better? And that's all his life has been, right? Is serving others, right? So Francis' story is amazing, and if you listen to it, you're like, wow, man, that's pretty cool. And I think it also gives us more gratitude for being blessed to be part of this country, that this family was lucky enough, right, to be rescued by and part of it, right? So, you know, any questions? What kind of questions we got here? Let's hear some questions. We got a few minutes left. Come on, no questions? Come on. Buddy, what do you got?
I have a question. Does your family fit in your top 5? Or is that like, do you count them?
I don't count them. They're all number 1.
All right.
No, they don't. No. Question? Go ahead.
Can you talk about some of your failures and how you stood in there and how they catapulted you into success? I know personally, when we first got into the industry, we did a lot of municipality paving, and we don't have our own plant, so it was extremely expensive. And we've done a lot of things to diversify. We're a women-owned business. I was a speaker 2 years ago on how women can thrive in a male-dominated industry. And by thrive, I don't mean be financially successful. I just mean kind of make it. So can you tell some of your stories? Because sometimes I know that I feel alone.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, okay, so for me, I've got many things. I'm not a real smart guy. I mean, I seriously go in any meeting understanding I'm not the smartest in the room, in any room. I could be in a room of 4th graders, and there's somebody smarter in that room than me. But the bottom line is, I believe if you think that way, you're going to learn from people in that room that you might not have learned from before. And I hope I'm asking the stupidest questions when I'm in a meeting. I don't care, because they're real questions that I have, and if I'm learning from them, that's all I care about. But in business, I've got 3 different times in my businesses I've almost lost everything. I really have lost everything 3 times. Never claimed bankruptcy, but my bank stood by me. We still have the same bank today that stood by me these times, right? Luckily, they grew to be able to handle our business. And, you know, Mike will challenge that. You know, our COO there will challenge it, because, you know, we can probably get better pricing from other banks, maybe a little better service. But when somebody's been there with you through the tough times, you should be loyal to them as much as possible. So either way, 3 tough times for me was, you know, early on when I almost lost everything. When I realized that I was doing business for people that I shouldn't have been doing business for. I wasn't getting paid. Lost money in a couple of years in a row. This is in the 90s, early 90s. So I was a small business, a couple $1 million in revenues, where I struggled big time. I read a book about the 80-20 rule, right? So I read a book about firing customers, right? Finding out who the 20% of their customers. This is really, it sounds simple, and it is pretty simple, but really usually 20% of your customers or less provide you with over 80% of your profits, right? So that's, if you look at your customers, man, there's a lot of customers either got to be fired or you got to recalibrate them, right? You got to go back to them and say, sorry, man, you just kind of suck as a customer, right? And you have to, not just say it that way, right? But bottom line is, we need to do things different, because we're getting our butts kicked with your business, right? And here's why. Be transparent with them. And some of those customers say, sorry, man, you got to be the cheapest, or I don't want you. No matter what you do, right? You're good, you're the best quality, but you got to be the cheapest. That doesn't work. The combination doesn't work very well, right? So I believe you fire customers or you recalibrate. If those that really want to do business with you, but you're getting abused by them, will change. That's great. But then take those 20% or less of your customers and that you know are those that are bringing you most of your profits and your opportunities. And then you say, how do I duplicate those customers? And we did this back then in the early 90s, and then we did it again in early 2000s. But, and I think, we kind of look at it every year, but we did it in a big way in those periods of time. Because in the early 2000s, another lesson is I fought the unions in the Chicagoland area at a cost of everything I had back then. So we got to, now we're at a $6 million company and we're making good money. I was profiting nicely, you know, business over $1 million in that a year. And I saved, everything was paid for. My wife and I had a house paid for, our buildings paid, all equipment paid for, no debt. And then the unions came knocking and said, you're too big, you need to be in the union in the Chicagoland area, right? And Mike's my buddy here, he was around when that happened, I think, and saw it, and the CB might have witnessed some of it, but they targeted us, and why they targeted us, they organized all these little companies around us. For the 3 years or so we fought them, they organized all these other little companies, saying, if you don't toe the line, you're next to little $1 million companies and $500,000 companies were becoming union companies. Almost all those companies were not in business within 2 years after that, because they didn't understand how much this union cost really was, and how they can't really compete at back then, $80 an hour all-in labor cost, right? So either way, I learned a lot from that. I learned all about unions, I learned about labor law, and it's helped me across the country as we grow and work in other markets to understand in this market, boy, if you're, let's say Vegas, you're in Vegas, if you're doing casino work, you better be unionized. And then if you're in Chicagoland, boy, if you're doing anything more than CB, what, a 100-ton job, they're going to be all over you, right? And it's tough. So Chicagoland area, we're a union company. We have these different companies, mostly because we knew that anywhere in the country you couldn't be union everywhere, especially Chicagoland union prices, right? So we understood that as long as you can, and I signed a contract that basically allows us, as long as Gary Rabine is just the owner of these companies, we have different management, different equipment, different, you can do this. Different customers, different markets. You can have companies that are non-union, union. And so we learned a lot about that stuff, and we still get challenged on it, but my labor law, my aptitude for labor law just went through the roof through that fight. And the last time was, I mentioned, we're 225 million in revenues, right, at this point, and I have two companies that together cost me $17 million, and this is my podcast, $17 million in 8 months. Right? I mean, these businesses don't make 20% margin, right? So $17 million to lose that in 8 months is a big, big hit, right? I would have never imagined back 30 years ago that if I can lose $17 million, I'll be fine, no problem, right? And it hurt. We had to recalibrate our business again, right? They had to go down. So what I learned in that time, though, was don't just jump into businesses, just jump into business because you think you got a business that can make some money, or you think you got a leader, a general manager, or president that you think will make money in that business. If you're not passionate yourself and you're the biggest investor, then don't do it, right? If you're not so passionate about business, you're going to spend, $100 a week in it until you understand it. So that my lesson there was, don't do business any business you can't differentiate in. Don't do it. Don't be in a business you're not passionate about that you can, seek out. I wasn't going to the fuel distribution shows across the country, across the world, and I probably should have been. I wasn't going to the union tradesman, whatever roofing thing, and I probably should have been, right? And my leaders weren't passionate enough to do it either. So that's what I would tell you. And one more question? All right. Well, hey, thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate it for a Saturday morning. A pretty good turnout.